What's going on, everyone? James Hancock here. This is part 3 of my Dark Souls kind of retro classic walkthrough as Sorcerer. It's going to be a longer video than usual. I'm experimenting with putting together longer versions. The way I'm assembling these videos is by recording in like 8 or 9 minute increments on the Xbox One. The Xbox One allows you to record up to 5 minutes, but if there's like a glitch or an exploit where you can record about 9.5 if you know how to do it right. I had to look it up, and then I'm just piecing them together. So if you pay close attention, around the 8 or 9 minute mark on this video, you'll see these little like switches. It's almost like back in the old days when people would shoot film and they would have to shoot on 12-minute reels, and so you can never have a shot longer than that. So I'm kind of doing the same thing here, but I am going to be buying something soon that will allow me just to record nonstop. At any rate, I am continuing into the Undead Burg. You got to watch out for those guys up there. They're throwing bombs down. So you can either fight on the bridge and have them throw bombs at you, or you can run in here and fight these guys. Now I'm looking for backstabs and kind of messing up. I mean, I got one there, but as you can see, I'm about to get overwhelmed. And as a sorcerer, not even wearing any armor, or not much armor, you can tell I almost die here like a scrub, but luckily I recover, get a little soul arrow off, and nuke them. I'm light on my feet, but in a closed-off room like this with little room to move, it can get hairy. But anyway, I survived. Also, if I get a little delirious during these recordings, because it's been kind of a long day, I was up to about 3 or 4 in the morning last night doing a podcast about Suicide Squad for the podcast Wrong Reel. And that is available on iTunes if you want to check it out. It's also on SoundCloud. But periodically, if I just am at a loss of things to say, I'll probably just start talking about Suicide Squad or Stranger Things, which is another show on Netflix that I'm watching. This little room is another little trap with that guy around the corner, and you know, I think I actually might have missed a piece of gear out on that walkway. I'm going to go back for that. But I'm not 100% positive there's something back out there, but I seem to remember there being something. At any rate, those black fire bombs are pretty powerful. That little walkway out there, though, is a dead end, so you're not missing anything but my failure to walk out there. Here you're going to see the advantage of being a sorcerer. I mean, usually this is kind of a tough spot because you have guys throwing bombs and people charging you, but I can just stand back and wreck them, and they're too stupid to realize what's happening. So yeah, there are times where you can just be out of aggro range and just blow people up. And same thing here. I mean, these guys, if you try to melee them or if you try to fight on the bridge with a bow and arrow, they can really trash you with the fire bombs, but by the time they even know what's happening, they're all going to be dead. So boom, boom, boom. Sometimes it's awesome to be a sorcerer. But here's just a great view of the Undead Burg, and to see just how phenomenal the level design is of this place. It's full of little shortcuts and little secrets and different levels on which to fight. And I've gone through this place many, many times now, and I never get tired of the layout. Just people who are studying how to design dungeons for video games should just look at Dark Souls, because it is the undisputed master. So many games don't have dead ends and don't have places where you can get lost, and you don't want people to be confused, but it also don't want it to be too easy. I mean, like in World of Warcraft, I used to love the dungeons and the raids where you could explore and make decisions. I got so tired of just straightforward dungeon design where you kill the boss, move to the next one, kill the boss, move to the next one. I like it when your knowledge of the landscape is rewarded. And you can see from here, my knowledge of the landscape is just allowing me to blast these guys from a distance, which is kind of what you always want to do as a sorcerer, unless you're just itching to get your hands dirty. Sometimes it's nice to go in there and ba-boom, backstab. But yeah, if I stay with the dagger this whole playthrough, I might switch to the scythe at some point. But if I stick with the dagger, I'm just going to be a lot of that. Now down there's a guy I'm not ready to fight yet. He's really, really powerful, but he does drop a Titanite chunk, I believe. And there's a really, really powerful ring behind him, so that's well worth going after. But I'm just not quite strong enough to take him on yet. Be sure to dodge that flaming barrel. It will wreck your shit. And here comes a little bastard. He pushed it. Missing. Once I've mentioned in previous episodes, in Dark Souls 1, it's very easy to miss with your soul arrows if someone's coming, if they're running towards you kind of hunched over, or if they're coming downstairs. Dark Souls 3 spells track a lot better. Dark Souls 2 I never played as a sorcerer, so I'm really looking forward to that, just doing the compare and contrast, because I love Sorcerer the class, but Dark Souls 2 I played through as a strength build, and I played through as a dex build. But I might have played through, yeah, as a faith build as well. But here I'm going to find my first crystal lizard. These things are super important. They drop awesome mats for upgrading your gear. You want to kill all of them. And the cool thing about Dark Souls 1 versus Dark Souls 2 is that if you fail to kill one in Dark Souls 2, you basically have to reset the level at a bonfire and then come back and try again. But with Dark Souls 1, if one of them escapes from you, you can just log out and back in and it'll reappear and you can kill it then and there. So it makes it much easier to kill all the crystal lizards when you see them. There's some crystal lizards in Dark Souls 2 that I've never been able to kill because they're just out of reach. What else was I going to say? Blanking. Oh, but there's a giant hollow tree you find later in the game, and that reset ability makes it way easier to kill the crystal lizards because I think there's like 8 or 9 of them all throughout this giant hollow tree, and if you had to reset the whole thing each time, that would have been a giant pain in the ass. So, yeah. Anyway, here's one of the first big bosses, and I am going to beat his ass to death. The Taurus Demon, it's not super hard. It actually turns into like an ad or like a mob later on in the game. You fight a whole bunch of them. I think you have to fight like 9 of them, but that's way later. So, even though it's just a dagger, I'm going to two-hand it, and I'm going to target him, drop down, and ba-bow, smack to the face. You know, only about a sixth of his health, but it's pretty good. I try to roll through, but he backs up, so I just say fuck it, and I'm going to go for it again. Some people like to use a buff on their weapon at this point, because now I do have some buffs that I've picked up as an item. I've never been a big fan of them just because, I mean, they're incredibly powerful and incredibly useful, but I just find it really distracting constantly having to reapply unless I have like a spell. But my big advantage with this guy is my heavy soul arrow. So now it's time to whip out the big gun. Notice it is a slightly slower casting time, so you gotta pick and choose your moments wisely. I got stunned with that one. But a couple of these and he is so screwed. One thing to keep aware of, if you want to fight this guy in melee, he can knock you off the side of this path, and that is insta-death. So just be aware of the fact that if you are a melee guy, Jump for Joy, like one of my favorite guys, Jumpin' Productions, that's another great YouTube channel. The guy who basically taught me how to play Dark Souls through his Dark Souls 2 walkthrough. So Jumpin', if you ever watch this, thank you so much, because you saved my butt and basically taught me how to love my all-time favorite solo RPG series. This is one of the few cases where boxes are hiding items. There are so many boxes you can break in this game. So few of them are actually hiding items, but in general, it's good to just trash them all just in case. But I think I know where most of them are, so I tend not to break all of them. All right, this is one of the most important NPCs in the game. He's a badass faith build. He can like throw lightning bolts. He's just a really, really cool guy. But if you can keep his quest going and keep talking to him where you find him and using him on certain bosses, you can actually use him on the last boss of the game, which makes the boss dramatically easier. My second playthrough of the game, I fucked something up where he just wasn't there for the last fight, and I couldn't get him to appear, and that really annoyed me. So I had to learn how to fight the boss solo because I couldn't find anyone else to summon, and actually had to play it correctly. But what's important about talking to him here is that while he's not really making a lot of sense if you never played the game before, but the big thing is he's going to give us the ivory soapstone, and these ivory soapstones are just vital. It allows you to be summoned by other players, and whether you just want to or whatever the hell it's called, you saw the name right there, but you put down a mark on the ground essentially, and then other players who are around your level can see it, and they can summon you into their game to either help clear a level or kill a boss or fight in PvP. And the really cool thing is, if you're hollow and you don't have any humanities and you let someone summon you and you kill a boss, your humanity is restored. And also, when you come back to your game, you get all your spells and health back. Now, important thing to remember, if you let someone summon you and your health is low and you have no flasks left and no spells, you're going to still be in that shape when you get there. Here I am trying and failing to make it. Dragon just blessed, or a Drake just blessed me. Sorry, I know it's a big difference between Drake and dragons, but more about him in a second. But just remember, going back to the whole summoning thing, if you are going to get into being summoned by people, it's really, really useful, but do people a favor and actually have some flasks and some spells and some health when they summon you, so you can actually help and not just be someone who needs to be carried or just be a distraction. So you have to kick that ladder down. Don't just drop down. If you don't kick that ladder down, that shortcut, you have to go all the way back around and start all over to kick it down. But once you kick that ladder down, it's an awesome shortcut that will save you tons of time. That little cut there, you can tell where the new video started. So I'm going to rest, put a few souls into my vitality, get my health up, I'm going to be doing a lot of vitality and a lot of intelligence on this tune and some attunement for some more spells. And I'm going to kind of ignore a lot of the other ability scores for a good long while. I just want to be able to do damage and take damage. And as long as I keep my gear low, I'm pretty much good to go. Now, you might be wondering, you've got the shortcut. How come you're going back here to do all the same old shit from before? To get past the Drake, there's a couple of different ways to do it. You can't kill him at this level unless you're just awesome at the game. But you can hit him a few times and make him move so that you can run past him while he's distracted. So I'm basically running over here to buy a short bow and a few arrows so that I can get past the Drake and into the next part of the game, which is I can't progress unless I do so. Anyway, you've seen me fight this guy before. A few blasts, I'm basically just killing him so that I can run up to him and give him a nice kick. And a backstab. I love doing that shit. And just, I don't know how many people have backstabbed in this game. It never gets old. I think because I struggled for so long learning how to play the game, and then I watched some video. Like when I first played this game, I played as a knight, and I was like wearing way too much gear, and I could barely move, and I was wondering why it was so hard, and I was having a hard time figuring out how to like level up my skills and whether or not to level up the armor, and I was just getting so frustrated. Then I watched this video, and I saw this this guy who basically was playing like a dex build, and he was just parrying and jacking people with backstabs and ripostes and all that kind of stuff, and it just blew my mind that you could one-shot people, and previously I just couldn't figure that out. I'm killing a few of those little soul items in order to buy a bow. Here's one thing I should mention in terms of like the economies of the game and being kind of saving things for a rainy day. When you pick up those items that allow you to consume them for souls, I tend to save them for as long as humanly possible, because periodically throughout the game you're going to encounter vendors or just situations where you're going to want to have a ton of souls all at once, and it's a pain to have to go farm those souls then and there. Then again, sometimes you just are feeling underpowered, so you got to go ahead and eat them and jack up some of your ability scores. But that's a perfect example where I needed a bow, and instead of having to stop and kill a bunch of people to buy a short bow, I just ate a few of those consumables, have my souls, and I am back in action. So another cool part about this part of the game is there's options on which ways you can go through. There's a lower way and there's an upper way, but the lower way doesn't do you any good unless you've gone the upper way at least once. And the upper reason you have to go the upper way at least once is there's a gate you have to raise in order to have access to the next bonfire. And this is me basically taunting the dragon or the Drake to blast. He kills all the mobs. I get some free souls. And now I'm going to quickly hide behind this wall to avoid getting nuked. Whew, barely made it. But as you can tell, that fucker, he's just not going to move. He'll just sit there and nuke me and nuke me and nuke me all day long. So I'm going to back up. I don't even have the sufficient ability scores to use a bow, but you can always equip it and just shoot it and do no damage. I did 2 there. That got his attention, and now I'm going to run under him. Now sometimes he'll stomp on you. Sometimes he'll turn around and blast you. I mean, I've seen people get this far right before the bonfire and they get nuked again. So I always run off to the right to make sure that I don't get fried. Here's some jerk off that I try to backstab, but I fail. But then I got him. That's a cool little area right here, because if you are a faith build, this is that's so cool watching the Drake fly away. He loses interest if you don't come back, and then until you reset the area, you won't see him again. But this area, if you're a faith build, I think when you have faith 20, you can open up this covenant and join it. And what's crucial about that covenant is where you can turn in these little, like, I think they're called sunlight medals. But anyway, if you're part of the Sun Bros, as people like to call them, you can turn in these medals that you get for helping people kill bosses and buy your first lightning bolt spell. And so yeah, faith builds in Dark Souls 3 kind of suck ass. I mean, my first playthrough in Dark Souls 3 was a faith build, and I was really disappointed. Faith build in Dark Souls 1, though, is insanely overpowered. My favorite walkthrough I ever did was as a faith build. Right here, I'm just being dumb. I should have just been paying attention, but I let them hit me. I'm trying to hit too many at once, and I'm just getting hit by arrows and losing health. So, showing some very poor gameplay right here. But what I want to do is get out there and grab those items. I think one of them's maybe a claymore, or there's some badass item out there that I want. So, anyway, these guys, depending on what kind of weapon you want to play with, it's well worth going out here and grabbing these little items. Yeah, the claymore. Claymore is a staple of Dark Souls. It's just one of the all-time great weapons. You can play the whole game with a claymore, and as long as you keep enchanting it and building it up and making it more powerful, you can't go wrong with the claymore in any of the 3 Dark Souls game. And if you just like whacking people with a big giant two-handed sword, I highly, highly recommend it. Now up those stairs is another one of those knights that I can't fuck with quite yet. It's one of those guys that drops a really good item. Now here's me backtracking because I want to show the alternate route to get across that bridge. And once you've got that gate open, you can use this if you don't feel like going past the Drake, but it's kind of easy to go by the Drake because down here you got these damn rats who can poison you. And granted, it's cool to kill rats because every once in a while they drop humanities, and humanities you can never have enough humanities. Because another cool thing is if you have 10 humanities on you at once, you have a much higher drop rate when you're fighting things. So if you're trying to farm any crafting items or any like rare weapons or armor pieces, you always want to do so when you've got 10 humanities. Another thing that's great about humanities is you can use them to kindle the bonfires. Like most bonfires, when you reset, you have 5 Estus flasks. But if you kindle it, which basically means you spend 1 humanity, you'll then have 10 Estus flasks. And after you reach a certain point in the game, you can actually kindle bonfires up to 20. And there's some situations where you're going to want to have 20 Estus flasks, like before you fight Manus, who's one of the hardest bosses in the game. Now right there, the Drake is gone. But what's cool about this part right here is if you're playing as a two-handed kind of like warrior dude, it's a place where you can if you've got sufficient ability scores to use a bow or a crossbow, you can shoot the Drake's tail a few times and he can't hit back. He'll fly around a bit, he'll get pissed, and he'll kind of like thrash about. But every time he resettles, you can get another shot in, sometimes 2 in. And I think, well, it depends on your scores and your stats and everything, but after like 15, 20 hits, his tail will pop off, and there's this giant two-handed Drake sword where, like I said, if you're playing at the strength build, that weapon will do you right for a good, healthy chunk of the early part of the game. It's also a great weapon for people who are kind of like just starting out the game and need an overpowered weapon early on. But yeah, the Drake's not coming back here for some reason. I'm not quite sure. But here I'm trying to basically provoke him into coming. I think if I spent a little bit more time on the bridge, he would have flown in and breathed fire. But I just didn't spend enough time out there to kind of get his attention. But periodically throughout the game, he will continue coming back. And toward the end of the game, we'll come back here with some fire resist gear on and beat 7 shades of shit out of him. But like I said, I'm trying to make him come back. He's just not wanting to for some reason. So I eventually just give up. Because I wanted to demonstrate where you stand to shoot his tail to get the I think it's called the Drake sword. But it's right here, and you just line up, shoot his tail a few times, and you get a great early weapon. And there are a ton of bosses like that where you can chop off a piece of them and get a great weapon. There's one of the early bosses, a gargle boss, where you can get this really cool, like flexible, double-bladed axe from their tail. There's a dragon toward the end of the game who's hard as fuck, who's got an amazing two-handed sword. I think it's it's one of the most powerful two-handed strength weapons in the game. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's just a giant greatsword. And you can only get it by fighting this boss for a while, knocking his tail off when he's landed, and it takes forever. And if you're doing it by yourself, you have to be really good, really patient, because he's just a tough boss. Now, at the top of that tunnel where I just came up the stairs, at the very top, like I said before, there's a knight who you're going to want to kill because he's got a great piece of gear. If I saw any people in the area to be summoned, I would just go ahead and summon them and just fight the guy. But I'm not seeing anybody to be summoned right now, so I'm just playing it safe. That's me going into the next video. So press pause, and so now I am going to make a mad dash to the next bonfire and kill everything along the way and grab some essential items like a key. I think right here I'm debating whether or not, I can't remember what I was debating. I was trying to make up my mind about what I wanted to do, and I didn't know if I wanted to go one way or another, because at this point in the game you do have options on the order in which you do things. That's one thing I love about this game, is that there's so many different ways and so many different orders in which you can do the game. It's really up to personal preference and your skill. Some people who have really, really high skill do the game and are just a wildly different order from your average player. I'm going to be playing for the most part sequentially as the difficulty scales upward. But like I said, you've got options, and when there are options, I will try to do my best to point out those options. A lot of it's just personal preference because some people are just better at fighting certain bosses because of playstyle. Here I am just getting hit by arrows because I'm an idiot, but I'm just trying to get this guy down. Because some of these guys will drink flasks after you hit them, and they'll heal up. And I'm trying to just kill them so that I can get rid of these bastards. Now I'm able to dodge a little better, so now I'm dodging some arrows, and I'm being a little bit more agile and dexterous because I want to get to this little bridge before taking on that giant iron boar, because that giant iron boar by yourself, if you're not light on your feet, he can truck you. But luring skulls are cool. You can drop them down and enemies will go to the skull instead of you. I'm using my heavy soul arrow, and I'm going to try and kill him and polish him off before the other guy comes up the stairs behind him. I could throw flasks at him, or what you can do, you can throw an alluring skull down and lure him into the fire down there, and that fire will take him out. I've seen people do that. I'm just playing it safe. I've got plenty of spells now. I'm just taking him out. Watch this. The guy just in time. There he is. I'm just going to move out of the way, and he's dumb. I can't figure out he's just dropped down, so I'm just going to blast him with some spells. See ya. Nothing dropped from the boar, so it's time to head on up. I'm going to raise that gate once I get to the other side. That's another shortcut. This is a trap. A lot of people get ganked the first time through, but you chase them, and then these bastards jump up from either side. So the key is to spring the trap, lure them into the tunnel, create a little choke point, take them out. A lot of these weaker guys, they're not that powerful, but a couple of them at once, when they start swinging their swords, they will just beat you to death. And these traps, they really work well, and as you can tell, I'm not wearing a chest piece. I'm very squishy, so I'm just trying not to get hit by anything unless I absolutely have to. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, these guys, they're hollows and they're weak, but man, they can shred you. But yeah, pretty much one shot will almost always kill them, even if you got a dagger. Down here is a crucial item a lot of people miss when they first run through because they're in a hurry, but it's a key. And I can't remember what this key goes to, but the keys here unlock areas of the game. And as I said before in this walkthrough, I'm going to be exploring every single corner of the game. And the only reason I would not explore a corner would be if I just have somehow never seen it, which I highly doubt. Because I've watched a Dark Souls 1 walkthrough from these great guys in Scotland. And I've watched it all the way through. They covered every item, every spell, every boss, everything. And so I think at this point, I have seen all the game has to offer. But there's always something more to learn about Dark Souls. That's one thing that's so cool about it. Dark Souls is a game with tremendous depth, and it's very rewarding the more knowledge you accumulate in terms of how to stack your ability scores, how to play efficiently, how to navigate. And here we are moving into what might be my favorite area in the whole game. I don't know why I like it so much. I love castles. I love kind of medieval environments. I love fighting these bastards. Like some of these they use like little rapiers and they're quick with tiny shields. Others use bigger swords, but they drop amazing gear if you're playing a dex build. They drop this one sword that when I played through on my dex pyromancer build, they dropped this. I think it's called the Balder Side Sword, but I played with the Balder Side Sword 50% of the game before I switched to the scythe. Now here I'm trying to get fancy and getting stabbed with a spear because I'm an idiot, and there's no way to get behind him because of where he is, and so I should have just started blasting with spells, but I can't resist a solo enemy trying to at least get behind him once, but finally I just give up and say screw it, kick us out of shield, and just hack him to pieces. Starting to get a little low on spells. I've got 24 left, but none of my powerful ones, so I'm trying to also just conserve how many spells I have left before I get to the bonfire, and there's still a couple big enemies to go. That's another trap. People on both sides, so I'm just luring them out. Yeah, this guy is another person who, the gear and the shield they drop is actually one of the best shields in the game if you don't want to have a heavy shield. There's small shields, there's medium shields, and there's heavy shields, but that medium shield doesn't take that much strength to carry, and I think it's got like 95 or 100% physical resist on a successful block, and I'm not going to be doing a whole lot of blocking on this character, but if you are someone who likes to block with shields, that Balder shield is just fucking money because it doesn't take up a lot of weight, and it's just insanely powerful against physical, and it looks pretty cool as well. Now I accidentally pulled another one of these guys, but it's no big deal because I'm gonna stab him in the back because I'm a pro gamer. He's a little stronger. That did not kill him, so doing a little jump attack. Still didn't kill him, so finally I just say screw it. I'm going to shoot him with the spell. You did. One more guy down here, and then I'm going to pull that crank to open up that gate. It's a shortcut you might not ever use, but it's good to just have that shortcut. Basement key, that's another crucial key. But it's just good to have every shortcut open so that you have as many options as you like. Because you never know. If there's certain spells or pieces of gear that you want, or pieces of armor or crafting items that drop, there are certain areas that you're going to farm. And you don't have to farm if you don't want to, but people who just fall in love with the game, sometimes they just like building really, really cool, rare sets. And so if you can open up all the shortcuts, it just gives you access to more parts of the game. I'm getting a little overwhelmed here. I'm trying to get backstabs and just messing it up. And they're just hacking me to pieces. Yes, I don't always play or show the best side of my ability. See that fucker healing? Yeah, people that heal just make me mad. This is actually a perfect time to talk about PvP and healing. It's kind of an unwritten rule. There's someone who can be summoned, but because I'm about to wrap up this video, I'm not going to summon them. There's another person who can be summoned, but they're clearly trying to get summoned to go upstairs and fight the gargoyle bosses. But when it comes to healing, some people have the attitude that in PvP you should never heal. Just get the matches one and done. Because if both sides agree not to heal, then you can do more PvP and get more of the items that you get from PvP and accumulate the spells and weapons that you want with those particular covenants. So by healing, you're just dragging the whole thing out. But some people just don't like to lose, so they just start healing. But in general, if you want Dark Souls players to respect you, don't heal in PvP unless you see your opponent heal first, and then it's kind of okay to go ahead and heal, because at that point they've broken the rules. There I am offering humanity. I'm kindling that flame because I want it to be a 10 Estus Flask thing, because we're going to be fighting a boss pretty soon that I'm going to want to have a lot of health. So putting 1 point in intelligence just to jack up the damage of my spells, another point in vitality, but normally once I get my vitality to 20, I'll probably start putting a ton of points into intelligence, because I like to get my intelligence as high as possible, because if my spells do more damage, I don't have to spend as many to kill people. Here's one of the most important vendors in the game. He's a blacksmith. He can upgrade most of your gear when you turn in certain items that unlock certain kind of like upgrade paths for your items. If you go to the Dark Souls wiki, they can show you all those paths. But he also sells a few keys and a few items that are important. You'll be seeing him many, many times throughout the course of the game. So don't kill him. That guy we're going to kill later on. He drops I think a demon shard or something like that. But he also is blocking the entrance to a really important part of the game. Now this up here is Sen's Fortress, I believe it's called. It's one of the scariest parts of the game because it has a lot of traps. We can't get in there until we ring the bells above and below, like that guy told us at the very beginning of the game. But here is one of everybody's crowd favorite NPC quest lines. It's actually an NPC quest line I've never officially finished. I got to the very end, but Sigmar of Katarina, he appears in Dark Souls 3 as well. If you talk to him every time you see him and you open up his path, toward the end of the game, there'll be an opportunity to get a really, really cool item. It's really, really hard to keep his quest line going because it's easy to overlook where he is and kind of like go too far without talking to him again. But anyway, this video is over. I'll continue about Sigmar in another video as I pump into him. So hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much, and please subscribe and like all that good stuff. Bye-bye.